Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days. For today's second video, day 10, will take us to the 13th of January, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with GFS and ECM ensembles, because they run to around a couple of weeks. We're going to have a look at CFS-V2 at the end of the video for the next 4 weeks, which gets us to the latter stages of January. I shall get on that for you in a moment. To say that first video is saying was our 7 AM upload. Nice little 5-day forecast. Less than 5 minutes in length. So check that out if you have not yet done so. All the videos get back to normal today. It's Bank Holiday Monday today, of course. Last sort of Bank Holiday Monday of Christmas and New Year and whatnot. So everything's back to normal from tomorrow, including all of the videos that we've been putting on that burner. So all of the European outlooks and USA forecast, Jamie Friday, all of the regulars are back from tomorrow. Right, before I do anything else, I'm going to say thank you so much to our latest patron. So I picked up a new patron. Thank you so much to Pete Walker for becoming a GavsWeatherVids patron. That's amazing and incredible. Thank you so much, Pete, for doing that. So this is GavsWeatherVids patron page. If you'd like to become a patron for GavsWeatherVids, we've got 38 patrons. If you'd like to become a patron for GavsWeatherVids, all you need to do is come to our patron page, and you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month. And thank you so much to all of our patrons. There is also PayPal as well. This is the GavsWeatherVids PayPal page, so if you'd like to give a one-off donation to GavsWeatherVids, you are certainly welcome to do that. Just come to our paypal.me page and sign into your PayPal account, and then give whatever donation you would like. You'll get a shout out in videos if you want one. And also there is, of course, YouTube channel membership as well. So if you'd like to become a channel member, we've got 67 channel members, so we're very close to 70 channel members. Wow. Thank you so much, everybody, for getting us to, very close to 70 channel members. If you'd like to become a channel member for GavsWeatherVids, all you need to do is go to GavsWeatherVids YouTube homepage, I should say. Click the join button. It'll take you through to another page where you see what benefits you get for becoming a channel member, and sign up on that page as well. Thank you so much to all of our patrons, all of our channel members, all of our PayPal donators, and super chatters in the live streams as well. It's amazing, it's incredible the support that you give to me and to GavsWeatherVids. So thank you so much to each and every one of you. A special thank you, Happy New Year as well, to Pete Walker. Right, let's start the video then. We're going to begin with central England temperature. So look at this, it's already coming down from that very high CT that we have for the Thursday of the month. It's still really warm though. CT is standing at 11.3. Which is like 7.7 degrees above average. But yesterday it was over 9 degrees above average. So we lost over a degree yesterday, even though it was a relatively mild day as well. We'll be losing more of that as well, and that will intensify over the next few days because it's going to go quite cold tomorrow and also Wednesday as well. So we're going to get a bit of an entertaining collapse with this, I think, over the next few days as it started off so very high. Where it will be by the end of the first week of the month will be interesting to see, won't it? How long it takes to sort of wipe out that Thursday anomaly. But yeah, 11.3 now, 7.7 degrees above average. Right, these are GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. Looking at Birmingham today, so red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average. For Birmingham, we're starting off still a little bit above average today, the upper air temperature. But remember, on New Year's Day, we was up here at 10 degrees at 850 HPA. So the upper air temperature done something like that over the past couple of days. So a proper old plunge has taken place. We are still ever so slightly above average, but you see that actually in the next 24 hours, upper air temperatures and surface temperatures will be going colder than average. So there is a little bit of a cold snap on the way for the next couple of days. Then we go very zonal for a few days. So we've got these warmer and cooler and warmer and cooler and warmer sectors alternating with one another. That takes up to around the 12th of January, something like that, nearly day 10. Then after that, we lose the zonal sine wave a little bit. We have a lot of scatter appearing then. So we've got warmer ensemble members up here, and we've got colder ensemble members down there. What we can see though is that there's a little bit of a drying trend within that. So we're unsettled like for the next week or so, with regular bouts of rain coming through with the zonal weather. And then as we go beyond that, we just start to lose those precipitation spikes a bit. So it does look as though towards the middle of January we start to get a little bit of a drying trend. That probably going to be associated with an increase in pressure. So this is the sea level pressure ensemble graph for Birmingham. So again, sort of relatively low pressure at the moment, at around 1,000 millibars. Very up and down, you know, very much typical of zonality. So you know, sometimes with relatively highish pressure, sometimes quite lowish pressure. So that's all like zonal stuff. But you see this increase in pressure is taking place through the second week of January, going up to around 1,013 to 1,014 millibars. That definitely looks like high pressure is getting more influential as we move through into the second week of January and into the middle part of the month. Maybe signs of a little bit of drop in pressure then right at the very end of the graph. Of course, that is a long way off. So it does look as though high pressure is going to start getting more involved in the weather, you know, from the second week of January onwards. Temperature-wise, so we're still pretty mild with temperature today. Maximums around 10 degrees, although that is way down on like 16 that we had a couple of days ago. We are going to go a little bit colder in the next couple of days, going down to around 4 degrees, and there could be some light frost mixed in as well from the middle part of the week. So yes, we may even be able to pull off a little bit of frost this week, which is, you know, wouldn't normally be a talking point, but because the winter's been so mild so far, you know, that is actually going to be a little bit of a talking point, I think. Then we go into like zonal weather over these days just here. So warm and cold sectors alternating with one another, sometimes relatively mild, it's around 8 to 10 degrees, sometimes so looking quite cold, going down to around 2 degrees. And then beyond that, though, as we get into the middle part of January and the second half of the month, again, there is quite a lot of scatter in there, but I think there's a bit of a cooling trend that is appearing, you know, so we're cooling down here, quite cold there, then we lift up a little bit, I think, there, and then probably go down a little bit through there. So, again, that is associated with quite a bit of scatter, though. So some members are very mild at 12 degrees, some of them are going down to properly cold conditions with overnight frost and whatnot. So the second half of the month is proving to be a little bit of a mystery here, but you know, we might start to see high pressure becoming involved, because where that high pressure goes is going to be all important precipitation. Snow row, I should say, looks like that. So it could be a little bit of snow tomorrow. There's going to be snow showers in the north, and there's a cold front moves southwards tonight and tomorrow morning. That might deliver a few flakes of snow on the back edge. Shouldn't amount to too much, though. Then after that, maybe, you know, some wintry showers coming up towards the end of the week on quite a strong westerly wind. Then we sort of lose any chance of snow through the second week of January. Maybe one or two hints that we might get a little bit of snow then into the second half of the month. But to be honest, it doesn't look great for snow at the moment, for snow potential. There's not much showing up there for Birmingham. Temperature anomalies from the 3rd to the 11th of January, a little bit above average for England and Wales, a little bit below average for Scotland. Precipitation anomalies from the 3rd to the 11th of January, drier than average in the south, wetter than average in the northwest. The latest wind flow map from earthnoldschool.net shows that we're still drawing in westerly winds across most parts of the country, but, notice, to our north, we are now starting to pick up a northerly wind, which is something we have not had very often this winter so far. But yes, northerly winds are beginning to arrive into Scotland. There's a cold front through here, and ahead of that, of course, it's relatively mild with those westerly winds, although not the long fetched southerly from Africa that we had on New Year's Day, but it is still relatively mild with westerly winds, you know, ahead of that cold front. Behind it, though, it does turn actually colder with winds pulling in to a northerly direction. If we drag this down, we can see that the air with this is originating from a long way north. It's a proper long fetch northerly around this area of low pressure in the North Sea And so it really is going to feel a lot colder, you know, over the next couple of days. You will notice the change. You're already noticing it in the north. You will notice that change quite significantly so down in the south overnight and into tomorrow. It's not going to last long, though. This is Thursday, midnight on Thursday, where we are actually under a little transient ridge of high pressure. It could be very frosty on Wednesday night, but the next low in the Atlantic is already moving in, and so it's going to second half of the week. We go into like unsettled weather, be a band of rain pushing through during Thursday. Might turn to storm leading edge in the north, and then as that sweeps through, we go into this cold, showery, westerly wind, which will bring wintry showers into northern and western areas. Over the weekend, we keep it quite cold and showery. Low pressure north of Scotland, further wet weather, could be some hill snow times up in the north. Winds are coming off Greenland, so we'll be pretty chilly over the weekend. Then into Monday, we start to drag up some milder air from the southwest, and that's as far as we get to with the UK Met Euro. As far as we go to Monday, 10th of January, where we're beginning to introduce some rather milder air from the southwest with upper air temperatures. We can see we've got a big old warm sector starting to move in with this area of low pressure. There is another cold sector behind that low pressure though, so 24 hours in the warm sector, probably early next week, and then we go back into the colder sector once again. Very, very typical and traditional sort of zonal weather. This is how the icon model is looking. So again, Friday rather cold, showery, windy. Showers could well turn wintry in the north and west. A little bit of a ridge then builds up. What's happening here? So yeah, a little bit of a ridge then builds up as we go through into Saturday. Ever so slightly, but the next low is waiting in the wings, and that pushes through Saturday into Sunday. That brings further wet weather, and again, there might be some hill snow involved with that in the north. The area is quite cold coming from the North Atlantic. By the time we get through to the open of next week, though, we start to drag in these milder southwest winds, particularly so to more southern areas. The north is already beginning to go a little bit colder behind probably quite an active cold front by the time we get through to Monday, the 10th of January at midday. This is how the GFS midnight run is looking. Again, high pressure reaching up from the southwest. That brings a lot of dry weather around the middle part of the week and quite cold, but very quickly that gets swept aside as low pressure moves in from the Atlantic, bringing cold, showery conditions. Then we go showery, quite cold, windy weather over the weekend, and that lasts into the early part of next week before we start to drag up this milder southwesterly wind once again. Middle of next week, start to see high pressure beginning to build up from the southwest. We saw this on the ensemble graph of Birmingham that we started off with. It does so for the middle part of next week. High pressure starts to strengthen from the Azores and push north. This is a mild ridge, so it will bring mild double-digit temperatures with it through the middle part of next week if it comes off, but it will be turning drier. Probably quite a lot of cloud as well. This high pressure is building up from the south. The high pressure range just sits very close to the country as we move through into the middle part of the month. Notice cold air digging back in across much of northern Europe. The cold northern European winter goes on. Cold for Norway, cold for Scandinavia, cold for Finland into northeastern Europe again. Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, all looking quite cold through the middle part of January. This trough of low pressure. We, as ever, remain protected from that cold weather because of this ridge of high pressure. This ridge is sitting around for quite a few days, though, so we probably start to get more in the way of frost and fog beginning to develop with that area of high pressure. And right at the very end of the GFS midnight run, we begin to ease high pressure out to the west and possibly start to allow something a little bit colder come in from the north. That high pressure does get going around the middle of January. The question for the second half of the month will be, where does the high pressure go? Does high pressure go to anywhere that could be conducive to pulling off cold weather? That will be the question for the second half of the month, if the high pressure comes off, of course. Probably some sort of pattern change to higher pressure around the middle part of January, though, looking quite likely. But initially it is a warm ridge building up from the Azores. This is how the GFS 6Z is looking. Again, that ridge on Thursday is being flattened off very, very quickly by low pressure coming in from off the Atlantic through the second half of the week and into weekend. We're unsettled, quite cold, showery. Showers likely to be wintry, particularly in more northern areas. Early next week, we begin to drag up this milder southwesterly winds, so relatively mild through the early part of next week. And then again, same idea, by day 10, high pressure is building in across the country even more strongly on the 6Z than it did on the midnight run. Again, this is a mild ridge, it's a warm ridge that's built up from the Azores, so initially this will be giving mild temperatures, very similar to where we had just before Christmas, if you remember that. Very gloomy, very cloudy, quite mild temperatures into double digits, particularly where any sun comes out. But if high pressure sticks around for several days, then we might start getting inversion developing, and we might begin to get some frost and fog. And of course, we may take that high pressure further northwards. If we do, then it could start getting cold. That's what the 6Z tries to do. 15th of January, middle of the month, that high pressure is inching its way further northwards to be between Iceland and Scotland. Cold air is pulling into Scandinavia. So, but yeah, you know, looking a little bit colder there as we go through into the middle part of January. Around this area of high pressure, we will clear all of the gloom and murk, and we'll probably start to get some quite hard overnight frost going. High pressure doesn't go far enough north, though. Still too much energy around Greenland and Iceland prevents that high pressure going a long way north. So it just sits around the country there beyond the middle of the month, bringing lots of frost and fog with it. Eventually, though, the high pressure does pull out into the middle of the North Atlantic, and we bring down a cold northerly wind as we get into the 19th of January, which again is as far as we go to with the GFS 6Z. So turning colder from the north with both the 6Z and also the midnight GFS runs into the second half of January, with this area of high pressure pulling out west. Of course, it's over 2 weeks away, so it's a long way out, and therefore is really unreliable. GM looks like that. Again, we're flattening off the ridge as we go through the middle part of this week, and we turn cold, showery, windy through the second half of the week. Those cold, showery conditions carry on into the weekend as well. Early next week, trying to raise some heights over Scandinavia. That's something that the GM has been trying to do over recent days, but there's just too much energy in the Atlantic to allow any sort of Scandinavian high at the moment. So we just pull in this southwesterly actually through the early part of next week. Relatively mild weather, particularly for the south, but still with more rain. There is a little bit of a warm air advection going on here, but he's trying to inflate the ridge over Scandinavia and Western Europe. Again, along with like the GFS output, by the time we get through to day 10, the GM is also raising heights to our south, but also to the east, interestingly. So the GM, you know, is building up the Azores high. It's trying to ridge to what is actually the Siberian high that's sitting over western parts of Russia. If those two high pressures got together and went further northwards, then we would potentially set up a Scandinavian high and pull in the wind from the east. The problem is that we've got a very, very strong polar vortex that's going on just here. All of these purple colours around Greenland and eastern Canada, that is the PV. And that will be putting a lot of pressure with the jet stream on any high pressure that attempts to get going over Scandinavia. As it is, we're probably turning drier though there by day 10, and we may start to get some frost if that high pressure goes far enough north. And then the ECM looks like that. So once more looks very unsettled through the second half of this week. Wet and windy, quite cold as well. That carries on into the weekend. Then early next week we draw up this mild southwesterly. That carries on into the middle part of the week. High pressure getting more and more involved and strengthening through the middle of next week. So by day 10, 13th of January, we're under a 1040 millibar area of high pressure. Will be mostly dry by then. That is a warm bridge. Again, it's built up from the Azores, so initially this will bring a lot of cloud and murk with it, probably. You know, like what we had before Christmas, very cloudy and gloomy. If the high pressure sits around the country for long enough or goes further north, then we might start to be able to consider some colder weather and some frostier weather. But as it is up to day 10, relatively mild with this ridge of high pressure. If I show you the upper air temperatures, we can see that it is a mild ridge. You know, it's a warm ridge of high pressure that has built up from the south rather than a cold ridge that's pushed in from the north. So again, you can get it cold though under these areas of high pressure in winter, but they've got to stick around for a few days to get the inversion going. This is a precipitation forecast based on that ECM run from Tameteo.com. So here comes the cold front, pushing southwards over the next few hours, bringing rain and maybe a few flakes of snow on the back edge as well. That will be like the first snowfalls of the winter for parts of the Midlands, for example. Won't amount to very much, but, you know, it might be a little bit of wintriness around through the course of tomorrow morning in parts of the Midlands. That gets out of the way. Very just cold northerly, brings in lots of snow showers to northern east parts of the country. Wintry showers around the coastal areas as well. They die out under a ridge of high pressure, builds in midweek. Well, there'll be some hard overnight frost around middle part of the week, and then into second half week, low pressure heads in off the Atlantic, bringing heavy rain and initially some snow on the leading edge. That bumps into cold air, wet in the south, a little bit of snow potential further north. Then that gets out of the way and we're into these wintry showers with those cold westerly winds on Friday. More rain piling through the country into the weekend. And, yeah, just looks unsettled, quite cold weekend with plenty of rain to come. And then next week, of course, high pressure makes its move, so that dries things out, and we lose all of the wet weather, and it turns mainly dry. And that area of high pressure. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which gets us to the 13th of January. 13 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure to the north and northwest, high pressure to the south and southwest, so we're drawing up those mild southwesterly winds, mainly dry and mild with that. And then we've got 13, including the control room, that has high pressure centred over the country. It's a mild ridge initially, it's built up from the Azores, but might be, you know, if it sticks around, it might deliver some frost and fog and whatnot. 11, again, with high pressure over the country, just a little bit further north with that high pressure, possibly allows something slightly colder in from the east. That does include the operational run as well. So maybe some frost by the time we get through to day 10 with that, even though it is still a mild ridge. Another 10 just here with high pressure over slightly to the west of the country, perhaps drawing in a little bit more of a northeast. That could be slightly colder. And then 4 just here, this is the coldest option, but only 4 doing this, has a high pressure much further northwards to Scandinavia and brings in like a proper easterly with low pressure to the south, and that would deliver snow to southern parts of the country. So that's winter, that's proper winter. But of course only 4 are doing that. However, it does look as though high pressure is going to be building, doesn't it, around day 10. So where the high pressure goes into second half of the month will be quite important, I think. These are the options that we've got for 2 weeks' time. This gets us to the 18th of January. 23 members of the ECM ensembles pulling the high pressure out west and pushing in low pressure to the north and northeast. That will start to get winds towards the north, so that's becoming colder and more unsettled as well. That's kind of like what the GFS output is doing. You know, the 6Z and the midnight GFS run. And then we've also got 23 just here with high pressure again, pulling out into the Atlantic. But this is a little bit more westerly, I think. This is bringing in more of a westerly type flow. So obviously that's the milder solution. There is some low pressure to our southeast that we'll be trying to bring in like a little bit of an easterly wind. But yeah, where the high pressure goes in the second half of the month will be important to what happens in the second half of the month, assuming the high pressure goes anywhere, because high pressure might just stick over the country for 2 or 3 weeks. So they can do, you know, these winter high pressures, when they get going, they can be very, very persistent, and that's how we get our prolonged spell of frost and fog, you know, or it was traditionally years ago. We don't get as much frost and fog as we used to. Of course, we tend to get more anticyclonic gloom now, but sort of 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you could get high pressure that would stick over the country in the middle of winter for like 2 or 3 weeks and produce prolonged spells but frost and fog. And back in the day of like 60 years ago, you would get smog with that as well, and that's the kind of thing that, you know, back in the day would have produced that before the Clean Air Act and whatnot. So where the high pressure goes is going to be important. The CFSV2 finally beats the 500 millibar heights, broken down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 3rd to the 9th of January. The coming week will have low pressure to our east. High pressure will be pulled out into the Atlantic. We'll be bringing in a bit of a northerly. So, you know, unsettled and turning a bit colder as well in the week ahead. Week 2 is the 10th to the 16th of January. Now, this is when the shorter range output is trying to raise pressure, build up high pressure. The CFS doesn't really show that, actually. It just has low pressure around Greenland and Iceland and high pressure down here. So the high pressure has moved north a little bit, but we're still generally unsettled with that, and flat and westerly and zonal with that. Week 3 also does not show any sort of high pressure. The CFS is not really seeing this high pressure at the moment. This is the 17th to 23rd of January. The high pressure sort of pulls out to our west, which is like what GFS is doing, I suppose. And then low pressure is over to the east, and that would begin to start getting colder again, with winds turning back into the north, maybe even slight northeasterly flavour, although there is no northern blocking really available to drive in very cold air. The northern blocking is kind of over here, like around Alaska and whatnot, and you know, where it's been through the winter so far. And then week 4 is the 24th to the 30th of January. Low pressure still in control, high pressure over towards Newfoundland, and we remain quite westerly once again. So the temperature not only for CFSV2 for week 1, which is the 3rd to the 9th of January, is milder than average in this week, although it will be trending a little bit cooler with time. Week 2, 10th, 16th of January, that is also relatively mild. And then we go through to week 3, though, that goes colder. This is 17th, 23rd of January, start to go colder then. And we keep it, you know, rather cold as we go into week 4 as well. This is the 24th to 30th of January, below average temperature, particularly for more northern areas. So the CFS does eventually turn us a bit colder into the second half of January, but it takes a while to get there. But I'm not sure about that CFS, because the shorter range is very much trying to build up high pressure around the middle of January, and that CFS run didn't really show that at all. So let's wait and see where things go for mid-month and beyond. Right, if you enjoyed the video, please do smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for doing that. Tell your friends to subscribe as well. You'll be able to see future weather content if you do that. And drop a comment. Let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. Thank you so much, everyone. Right, we're done with today's videos then. So that's it. We've come to the end of the Christmas New Year slog, haven't we? It's all back to normal from tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll begin with 7 AM upload. We'll have the extended EC 30 days / 6 weeks look out for the UK and the rest of Europe as well. 10 to 14 day. Also, the features are beginning to get back to normal from tomorrow onwards. When are we going to do Snow Watch, though? We haven't done many, have we? It's been tumbleweed, really, for Snow Watch so far this season. Will we get to do some Snow Watches in January? Watch this space. You enjoy the rest of your bank holiday money, though. And for this video, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.